Welcome to episode 8.
Good morning. Morning traffic, a lot of noise. One of my South Lyon stars gave me the cutest rendition of growing up in a small town. He said you can literally do everything within a few blocks. You could live on walk one block to the grocery store, another block over to the theater, come back another block to the ice cream store, and you've had a quite entertaining day.
Good morning. But now you're the adults. You're in charge. You have responsibilities. Those who choose a small town to live in possibly like the experience of a small town. They take over the family business in that town. They might marry someone who's from a small town. I came looking for another small town and found a great one. Here's some news. There's a computer in your home. There's a way to save a favorite TV show now. Look at you with new transportation. You hang at a mall for the latest movie or high top, and there's a store where you can rent a movie and take it home. So how is living in this small town?
We intended on me having a career with General Electric, which I did for the first 3 years. And then my brother-in-law was in the sanitation business, garbage business. And he was going to sell part of his route, and we were thinking about going into business our own. So we missed people back home, and we said, well, let's try it right there in South. The money we were saving for
a down payment of a house.
house.
We bought a garbage truck. We never thought we'd be back in South Lyon again. That never entered our mind.
And my degree was in education, in English and secondary education. So my plan was to be an English teacher. So I graduated, I came home. My parents had the 6-month plan. Come home, you can live at home for 6 months for free. There wasn't a single one of us who stayed more than 6 months. I came home, started doing substitute teaching. I moved in with some friends from high school. No full-time jobs. The market's not looking good for teaching, so I think I'm going to go to law school. And I ended up going to Cooley because I could start the soonest. Dad said, come home and hang out your shingle here where people know you. As my dad slowly began to retire and I took over, you're always helping people.
Right. When you graduated from college, Don, what did you do?
Well, I had one job interview. I'd gotten my teaching degree. And my 7th grade shop teacher was then the principal of the middle school. His name was Don Height. He'd actually given me a SWAT in shop class, but I went in and interviewed for a job. I was a science teacher, and I got hired, and I stayed there 32 years. I worked for some great principals. Jim Rockel was a great principal to work for. It was kind of cool coming back to the same town. You know, my teachers became my colleagues.
There's a transition between high school, college, and then in adulthood. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So this man is teaching you and maybe giving you a hard time or coming down on you or whatever. The next thing you know, 5 years go by and now you're in the teacher's lounge having coffee.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting, but we were accepted. There were several of them. The small town. I never thought I'd leave South Lyon. Never thought I'd leave. And my wife, her dream was to, move up to Mackinac. And after we retired, we moved up to Mackinac.
We're waiting for our house to sign for it. Mr. Taylor's in his apartment above the barn. It wasn't a very luxurious apartment. I mean, I had to carry water up there. There was no heat. We put a mattress on one of the old beds and brought my son's bed up there. And it was good for 3 months and during the summer. In fact, I've gone downstairs and I was messing around with the horses when my son was in school and petting them and brushing them and stuff, and when I didn't have anything else to do. And one time I found one, it had laid down and got his foot caught in a fence, the gate. And so good thing they had radio down there. You could push the button and call up to the house. And I told him, I says, you better get down here. So-and-so's in a bad spot here. He's got his foot caught in the fence, and it was one of his prize horses. Studs, one of the prize studs. Well, they all came down. They all came down.
Back here?
Yep. Living on University Street with a dog and a wife and a baby girl. My dad and mother worked all their lives. So when I came on the scene, it was, so what? Wasn't a big deal. It was for Fran. She had a hard time adjusting. Didn't particularly care for that. But, I had really no choice. So when all of this was going on, I never watched television because I had to get home, get ready for the next day, and it's a tough job.
Yeah, it is.
The grocery business, if you own it and have to make all the decisions.
Was your dad still in?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so he's still there.
Yeah.
And does he consider you a junior partner?
No, just Steve, the son.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and my brother, so when he got out of college, so he went right to work because he knew, because I wanted him there. I needed him there.
Yeah.
Big
And
time.
is your dad trying to slowly get himself out of the business?
He was, but we weren't aware of it. He had a heart attack when he was 52.
Whoa.
And he got very concerned about dying young. He walked in the back door. Mike and I are closing on a Saturday. He says, you know what? I think you guys need a little bit of fire in your life. Yeah? He said, you need to buy me out.
Is this after the heart attack?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
So we bought him out.
I mean, I can understand that.
Yeah. Got scared.
Yeah. You think you're 80 hours into the business.
Yeah.
You're 24 hours, 7 days a week in the business.
Yeah. But I had my brother, and that was the key, my ally. It was a 50-50 deal. And I said, I think to my brother, was simple words like, we paid way too much for this business. He says, yeah, but we got the machine. and I said, I forgot about that. So we paid him off. I never confronted a client, so to speak.
That's right.
Because you
right.
wanted back there the next day or
Yes.
the next week. We did anything and everything to create business.
Yeah.
The best one was Billy Backus's car club. He had, he says...
Cowtown Cruisers.
Yeah, Cowtown Cruisers. So when you do that, they bring their cars, they put them around the parking lot. So I go home, and then I get a call from the South Lyon police.
Okay.
Because they were doing burnouts.
Oh, no.
I didn't know what a
In the
burnout
parking
was.
lot? I go, were you glad you had your brother? He said, I was very glad I had my brother. And when Dad walked out that night, I said, what the hell have we just done? We paid way too much for that. And you said, but we got the machine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't realize he's been training you.
Actually, to have our dad come back in at his leisure and be there, he sure, if somebody needed to be checked out and then we weren't right there, he'd do it.
Right.
But that's not what he was there for. He was just there because he liked just seeing what was going on. Yeah, he was extremely happy. He was extremely happy when we took over the store in Ann Arbor. When we opened the store in Whitmore Lake, he was, he couldn't be more proud that we at that point had 3 stores.
I mean, what a great thing for him to be able to witness, first of all. You know what I mean?
Sure. So, but we were smart enough to know, you know what? I think we're getting kind of bypassed here. And when we got out of the business in South Lyon and said, you know what, it might be a good idea to do this. Well, the real estate company that was representing Kroger said, we're going to be in your area in 3 to 5 years.
And what's South Lyon's population?
Yeah, 1990 is 5,857. If we don't buy this from you, makes more sense for us to go out and try to find somebody. We did.
I am a believer that what's wrong with our educational system is that the schools are too big. A good kid will learn no matter the teacher or they don't like the teacher or what. The middle students are the ones that I ever wanted to teach because they're not motivated by anything, but they just won't do it. And the ones who have a struggle, they need the teachers there. The other thing is, so you want to play football. Oh, well, you're not good enough because there's 10,000 other people in this school.
500 kids to pick from. Mm-hmm. Well, what are those other kids supposed to do?
They just don't have a chance, so where do they go? They get a job, and then they get a car, so then they have to work more to support the car. I just feel so strongly about these big schools.
So how was it teaching your own children at South Lyon?
But when I became principal, that was not fair to the kids. It just wasn't. They had it worse because I was so concerned about them getting away with something or people thinking they did.
You were a teacher at South Lyon. Did you ever have to teach your own children?
For a couple days. When I was teaching home ec, we had 42 minutes in class period, so we had to make these recipes that we had to make, bake, eat, and clean up in 42 minutes. So my kids were my age of the kids I was teaching, so they were doing all the recipes here, and I'd be timing them. He said, Mom, we really don't mind being in your class, except that we try all the recipes at home. We don't want to do them again at school. And so they took them out and put them in some other classes.
What a hoot!
Yeah, that was great.
But as a teacher, you had to be privy to any of their...
Oh, yeah.
Did they ever fear coming home because something happened?
I doubt it. Them to be better behaved than the other kids, and they didn't like that. Come on, Mom, I just wanted to relax a little. I didn't want to have to do. Yeah, that's the way it is.
Did you go to Redford and find this young woman? So, how did you meet the lovely Sharon?
I was dropping my sisters off at Eastern, and I was continuing on to Cleary College. I saw Sharon talking with a guy that I knew from South Lyon, and he was a drummer. We were both drummers in the band. So I thought, wow, she's good looking. I think I'll kind of find out what her name is, And so I walked over, and he wouldn't tell me your name. He just wouldn't say anything. Well, you're not going to introduce me, so I'll introduce myself. So I did, and we were on. Got to leave to come back and get the story to that too.
Well, let's hear it. If you.
I was in Texas. I was on the firing range, and I was doing quite well. Asked me if I wanted to be an instructor there. I thought, man, this would be perfect. So I went in to talk to the commander, and I said, I've put my wedding off twice. I just don't want to delay anymore. So the commander there just says, well, it's now or never. So I said, well, thank you, sir, for the opportunity, and so I blame Sharon for me going to Vietnam. We bought a house in Ann Arbor.
Okay.
And stayed there, and then that's when we decided to move back to the South Lyon.
As far as being a parent,
yeah,
and raising kids and having a business, this is where a small town was so important.
Takes a village.
It was a village. We knew most of the teachers and principals that were good friends, and we hung out with them after hours, in various events. And so if one of our kids was doing something, they would tell us, and then we would deal with it quickly. And we never had, we were just fortunate, I guess, because of the teachers and the friends that we had really helped raise our kids. So much easier on everyone if
you just cooperate. Yeah.
Kindness, yeah, and they're children. They're gonna be doing things that maybe aren't so popular, but yet, come on.
How long did you work with your dad?
Well, he retired in '98 and he died in '03. So as far as him being in the store was '98, but he still owned it and had appearances here, from '98 to 2003. So, he left us alone pretty much.
Are you the only child of the Martins who work here?
No, my brother.
Oh, okay.
Too, yeah.
Okay.
He's worked here for about 40 years.
Okay, let's get into the business thing, because you literally grew up and now here you are, a businessman in South Lyon.
Mm-hmm. When I was 12, so in 1972, I just celebrated 50 years working here.
Wow.
And
what'd you do when you were 12? Did you wait on customers?
Yeah, yeah. I just kind of watched what everybody did, and I started full time the day after graduation, so at 17, and I was pretty upset with my dad because I wanted to go out that night after graduation. I had to work the next morning. I don't remember why, but I had to work the next day. And I've been here ever since. Not by myself, my dad too, but I did 90% of the stuff when I was 18 years old.
So you've already had 50 years of experience.
Yeah.
Wow, dude. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Enjoy doing business with you.
I do remember in the 70s it was like 2,500 or something. And oh my God, look at it now. It's funny because in the 70s, well, even in the 60s, everybody knew everybody. Mm-hmm. And we had our car lot, in town, as it's still there. But my arm would get tired because everybody that rode by, they're waving, and you gotta wave back. Yeah. It was always a struggle doing business because everybody knew everybody. So, like, we'd buy used cars from people and we'd sell. So if we bought a used car from somebody in South Lyon, well, they would tell all their friends, well, yeah, I got such and such for my car. Well, then naturally we're trying to make a living. So we had to, naturally we're not going to sell it for what we paid for. So people would come and say, oh, hey, I see you got what's his name's car. I go, yeah. Well, what do you want for it? And I'd tell them, well, you only paid X amount of dollars. I go, I spent some money on it, cleaned it up, fixed everything. And it was tough if they were.
Why did you come back?
Well, after we went to college, I got a teaching job here in South Lyon, and he got one in Fowlerville. And so we lived in Howell. So then he got a job in South Lyon as well. So then moved here.
And did you feel like you'd come home?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
It was comfortable.
Especially Larry, because he went back to teachers that had been his teachers. He went to the high school.
Yeah. And it was good because the coaching opportunity came over for me to become the head wrestling coach.
Did it feel weird in the beginning to be literally a few years older than the graduates?
Oh.
And now you're back, but now you're in the teacher's lounge?
Yeah. It was nice to see him from the other side of,
Be a teacher in the school district where your children are.
Yeah, our kids they went to the elementary I taught in, and then they were free for junior high, although we heard everything.
Yeah.
And then high school, they had their dad there. And it was neat because Larry got to coach both of our kids. That was very nice.
Yeah, in fact, I had an opportunity to become the athletic director, and I said no, because I had an opportunity to coach my son and daughter in sports, and I wanted to do that. Yeah. And then I became the AD after that. But, I never had any issues with my son.
Our daughter,
on the other hand, I'd have an occasional teacher say, well, your daughter was a little bit noisier than normal today, because she had a very good friend all the way through that.
But they used to get in trouble.
They would get in trouble. Not serious trouble.
How it felt in the late 60s. Where were you at this point?
Well, I graduated in 67, so I was in high school where you'd whisper about some girls who, were maybe having sex, and some of them, of course, that was taboo, and I didn't know, and there were always rumors about somebody being pregnant.
Yeah.
And then there was, I remember, a upperclassman that kind of disappeared for a while, and then she came back, and so she may have had to go have an abortion, I don't know. But out of high school, I have to tell you, and we ended up getting married shortly after that, had children. So I didn't go through that. A lot of my friends who went on to college and stayed single for a while, they got involved in marijuana and parties like that. And
how was it having kids of your own in your class?
I made sure I never had them in class. And they were totally separated from me.
Good.
I would take them to school once in a while, when they didn't want to ride the bus. And then I coached, so they had to come home in the bus. But they were in sports too. Mm-hmm. I coached both of them, which is, the closest they came to being a conflict. We never brought it home.
Good.
I made it to myself. At home, I'm your dad. At school, I'm your coach.
Right.
Did you know the old Jimmy's?
Yeah.
Well, describe going in there like
You're going home, your mother's kitchen. I mean, it was kind of a haphazard seating arrangement. It wasn't a fancy restaurant. You could sit up here and you go down the steps and some more back here. But it was, it'd be great. But they would see me in Jimmy's. I said, wow, hi, Mr. Straight. You come out. I said, I'm just a person, okay? I have to eat and do everything else like you do. Oh, I just thought you stayed to school. I got a wife, I got 2 kids, I got to cut my own grass. Oh, yeah.
Coming up, did that 60s revolution affect a small town? Leave your comments below. We'd love to know what you think. Please subscribe and like our channel. See new episodes every Friday, only on YouTube.
So as the young girl of a small town, I did live in a city for many years, but raised my family in a small town. It doesn't surprise me that a big city like New York would give a parade for the returning astronauts after their great success. But what never leaves is the 4th of July parade, the Memorial Day parade of a small town, just to thank their veterans, their city fathers, and the residents of their town for another wonderful year. That has staying power.
Right to my front door.